Hi class, I wanted to give you some video feedback. I'm going to go through these as if I'm a first-time site visitor, even though I've looked over them and I've seen them through the month so far. But I'm going to give you the impression of what somebody experiences when they go to your site. All right, so let's just jump right in. Let's see. All right, Edward, I remember looking at this earlier, and one of the things we want to do is we want to take this. I think I mentioned it earlier on your About submission, About page. We want to take this out of the header, all right? If we have a logo, we want to make sure that it is created with, I do love this, but we want to make sure that it's created with Illustrator or a vector. Scalable vector so that it can be created at any size and be very clear. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. You want to have, especially since we can't really read it, you want to have your name up here and photographer. And the reason we put photographer, it's good if it's a H1 heading. It doesn't have to be large. You can resize your headings, your H1 to be smaller if you like, but if it's large for your template. But the reason we say photographer instead of photography, you'll learn this week when you're working with your Google Trends and your keywords, you'll realize that photography is going to be too broad. It will cast a very wide net, but won't necessarily cast towards the people that you're looking for, your clients who are looking for a photographer. All right. So that's something that we want to make sure we are careful with. Obviously, they're not going to change your logo, but you would put your photographer up here. So yeah, I think maybe this could go on, since this is your first page, I would say a home page, but this is basically your home page, then I would put this probably on your portfolio page. You have some interesting shots, that's for sure. I would put those on your portfolio. And I would just have your About on this page. And I would take off Our Team and you could just have About, okay? You can say About Me, or you can just say About. Let's try to avoid underlines because it gives the feeling that it's a link and, clickable. So you probably don't need that. I know you're using it to separate. I'm going to bring this up. And you're going to see how that works. And maybe this was something you thought about, how that paragraph text will work with this paragraph text, right? Make sure you've got a Google Voice. It's free and it can come in handy. I do text my students using a Google Voice when I need to. Okay, we can take off sample. I'm always looking for ways to take a word out here or there. It helps people take in the whole thing quickly because that's what people do, right? We scan when we're online. Okay, so this is an insert of another site, it seems. That gets confusing. Essentially what you're doing is you're putting all of this into this, is what your goal is. You have your About, nice size image, and you have this. Okay, so they're different, but they're similar in that they both have the same photo, the same logo, and I'm imagining a lot of the same work. Maybe there's more here, but this is a separate site, so I wouldn't put this here for this assignment, even though I do like this. I do want to just have the single site and not one site inside of a site for this. And it's nice if we can get into the work sooner. I know the template does this. It has all of this over here, but maybe you can shorten some things somewhere, even if it's just a line, um, you know. So this is going here to the site, perhaps. Yeah, it just, there's quite a lot of the same image, so there's some redundancy, and the store you can, you can combine this any way you like after graduation, but let's just focus on what you have here. I like what you're doing here. That's very clear, and that's a good way to show your work. As a user, I find that easy to understand. And then your contact, okay. You may want to make that just a little bit longer because it feels like an outlier. We don't want to make a phone necessarily required. People don't want to give a lot of information. Okay, let's close up this gap and let's see if we can get the spacing a little more even. Usually we want to keep the space consistent. This is good. It's not quite as long because you don't have that lean. Okay, so this image I feel was also on others. So let's make sure that we're not having any kind of duplicates anywhere. Okay, so if you have it in this category, let's not put it in this category too. All right, so that will be less confusing and people will be able to enjoy your work. Again, if you can get that a little shorter, that'd be great. If you can get that up to here, maybe it's a little different, but interesting. All right, good. You're including Lightroom and the different skills that you have. When you do that, you want to make sure you say Adobe Lightroom. We're just required to. That's part of their branding. All right, so great job. Let's take a look and see how we are in mobile. Yeah, it's just, I'm not sure it's necessary. Here, if you do keep it, you want to watch where it's being cropped, but it's not going to be in your header, so that's going to be okay. But you are going to have your name up there, and you'll work with your spacing. Yeah. Okay. All right, you've got a great start. Great start. I'm looking for at least a LinkedIn, all right, for a professional site. Eventually, you may want an Instagram, just, where you can put your photos and things like that. But otherwise, terrific start. Great job. All right, let's go on to another. Valkyrie. Really beautiful site. I do love this logo. Easy to read. Less easy to read, but I guess that's a signature. Good job. So if we go here, terrific, terrific. Be nice to see your logo there too. So we're carrying that through everywhere. Okay, love that. It's got a lot of space there, but I don't want it too crowded either. Beautiful. So what I love is that you're keeping the branding all across your work, and that's something that we really try and get students to think about while they're here for their journey in their program, while they're creating websites or creating projects, that they consider their branding style guide so that the work they create is going to really look great together when they promote it. All right. Yeah, I wouldn't put many more than this because you have some dupes. So I think it's very clean and tight. It could get confusing if there were more because there's some duplicates. Okay. The coloring is beautiful. It's really terrific. Let's see how we look on mobile. Yeah, I mean, really what I'm seeing, the only thing we might need, it's beautiful here, it's very museum-like. However, um, when we get to week 4 next week, we'll be looking at accessibility, and it should bring these up because we need to have, just a higher contrast here for legibility. Okay. Yeah, just, it's really hard to say I want this space closed because on this one, it just gives you that mysterious depth in a funny way and helps with the transition to reality from this smoky look. But okay, you might want to bring that up just a little. A lot of these I'm just going to leave to you because you clearly know what you're doing. We do want to get into the content sooner. And okay. Okay, good. And but it's down here. So yeah, we're going to want to get into that sooner. And okay. Yeah, I'm going to close up some things here. All right. Beautiful job. Beautiful job, Valkyrie. Love it. All right. So what you'll do, everyone, you can duplicate your site and then make your changes. Make sure you're working at 100% view. That's going to be really important so that things aren't being cut off when I look at them. I'll be looking at them in Chrome. Let's see. Good. We do need something here, or we need to remove that page. I would be careful about, probably want to move that in further so that we don't cover it up. With this particular type of menu, it's easier for people to use a horizontal menu because this is an extra click every time they want to change. And let's remove the background. The logo is competing with your work and covering things up. So it looks like everything else is great. Your list here of what you have going, but the background is hurting it. And of course, it would have to have better resolution, but then it also has to fall back. Okay. Good job putting this year and updating it with your name in the footer. I do like this at this size, the logo. I think it needs to be over here though. And I think this page will work when you remove the background logo from that location. Okay. It seemed like this was easier to read when I saw it on your About page, but it's competing with the image behind it for sure. Let's see. We want to be consistent with your branding. Okay. Yeah, perhaps what you want to do is bring this over to the right and crop this image so that you can move, don't take too much off, but crop this into a vertical, move it over, and then maybe you'll have room in the center for your content. I would try that. But right now, we're kind of bouncing around from, my eye wants to look at this background, which is actually has some detail, right? So it's not falling back very well. And at the same time, I'm kind of asked to read. So I think we just want to simplify a little bit, right? All of it individually is amazing, but we need to simplify that. Hopefully this is not your house address. Great job linking up. Okay, so it's maybe just your town in Tennessee. All right. I love that you've kept it simple. If you're going to have these centered, I would center that. And maybe a little more space. You do want to create this in Illustrator so that it's super clear. Okay, and if you're going to keep using it, even if it takes you a while to do it, it's going to be a very worthwhile project, an asset for you to have, because you're going to use it over and over again. Okay, close that up. All right. Okay, really close. A little hard to read, right? So that will need simplifying. But other than that, you're really doing a great job, and you did a wonderful job with your assets to describe your work. Okay, Taro. We'll close that space and see your footer. We'll need to have the year and your name. And go ahead and put 2026, of course. We're so close. I want to close that up. Let's see. Okay. Nice. It's clean. You can see your work. Here's one of the things I want to suggest here. You see how this overlaps? If you click on your header and change the design of the header background, I would make the background color 100% opacity. Okay, so that way you won't see this. Okay, that won't be occurring anywhere. Okay, good. Okay, let's close that up. This and this space. And we have what feels like 3 fonts here. Simply because we have the header. This is probably the same. But I think you're going to need a sans serif here. It'll be easier to read. Okay, and I would bring this image up a little bit. You probably can make this column a little wider, which will bring this up a little bit, and you'll bring that up a little. Okay. If someone else took this photo, I would give them a small credit down here. Okay. All right. This will need to connect to yours, or at least have a LinkedIn. Okay. All right. All right. If you mention this somewhere, then you would need to place that a little more deliberately on in your header, and it would need to be again created in Illustrator so that you can size it, as big as a billboard if you wanted to. But you definitely want to do that, and then you would place it thoughtfully somewhere. At the moment, it looks pinned up to the left there. All right, and This font is always difficult to read. It comes with a lot of the templates, but it's that narrow stroke makes it really hard. But you want to just keep to two fonts mostly. For a site this size, you don't need, subheadings very often. So I would have a header, heading fonts rather, and then your paragraph font. And I would keep it the same. All right. Close that up. We want to remove the spacing, gaps. And we refresh this because it's not responding. Okay, there we go. It's not you. I think that this is repetitive a little bit. My name is and hello, I'm. So I think you just need one. And you may have to work on the contrast of that. All right. All right. Great job. You guys are doing such a wonderful job, and you're so close. Okay. Go through and check little details like, we won't catch everything. So you want to make sure we do have a lot of eyes on it. You're going to have your peers looking at it again. And so, but you will definitely need to go through with, the details and things like that. Okay, we have 2 pages. Okay, a little more padding between your work. Okay, I think you probably want your name and copyright centered. We'll see, but I think that might be needed. But you're consistent. Okay. It's good to have welcome, but you would actually need a little more here, so you're not required to have that, right? You would have to have something really meaningful on that. It just needs to be in welcoming. It doesn't have to have a welcome page, okay? All right, so when you're here, you're linking us over to here. And then we're here and here. But double check your rollovers, your colors, your hovering and so forth, because we've got 2 highlighted here. Make sure that that's a Google Voice. And we actually need a contact form for this. All right, so this is about you, and that's great, and about a project they may have, but okay, yeah, you want to be able to let them fill some things out there. Possibly center this, I think, and if it were me, I would bring this up a little closer in proximity to the heading. Okay. We also appear to have a different font or font size here. Okay, this is bigger. And yeah. Okay. All right. This is very legible. That's great. Remember, we want to crop this a little bit. Probably make it a little smaller. Still has some grain, okay? And reducing the size a little bit will help with that. Yeah, I would crop that. You won't need this on your mobile, probably. Or, let's see, it would be too long if you moved that here. That would really be long. But then you could move this up here and just make sure, I think you could clear it. You'd have to test that out. It'd be really close. But then you could get this in your upper right. Probably bring that up a little. Close this up a little bit. Yeah. Okay, and you'll work on that. All right. Great job. Great start. You've got some beautiful little work there. That's very nice. Great color. Great texture. Nice lines. Beautiful. All right. Let's see the other. Okay, you want to check, right? Make sure that you're not cropping off headings and things. If you can edit that down, that'd be even better than having to wrap it, but happens. Okay. Yeah, bring in your text a little bit, your column, so we're not cropping this. Okay. All right. Yeah, in each of those. But it's looking great, and I can't wait to see what you all are doing with this next week. Okay, Natalie, you nailed this down pretty quickly, if I recall. You have this pretty complete by the first week. Okay. Make sure we have the same spacing, vertical spacing. Okay. I probably would like to get into that a little sooner, even just a little bit. Okay. Great. Let's check out the mobile. This gets a little long, right? A little chunky. You might find a way to edit that down on your mobile, or you would have to reduce the size, I think. Maybe a different font here to match your site. Okay, that's long but important. You know, sometimes it's hard to edit things down. You know, you could say skills as long as you're consistent, but it communicates. I'm not sure this should be breaking this up, right? This is your About page. So if you want extra buttons, I think here, they probably should come below. You can edit a little bit so there's not quite so much scrolling. That's very common on mobile that we have to edit the paragraph text a little bit. Maybe close that up a little. And I'm not sure I would have that there. If you do, I would make sure it was centered. But you also have it here, so I'm not sure it's necessary yet. You can think about that. All right. Great job. Nice coloring, good branding. Okay, Vegas. Okay, this. I would definitely make sure that your background has an opaque header, or that your header background is opaque. And I would, okay, you do have it pinned to the top. You do have it frozen, and that's great. But I would go that other extra step too. Okay, make sure you have equal spacing. So however much space you have under here, you're going to have under here. Okay. This is good. This maybe a little less, just to be consistent. And you want to link up to at least a LinkedIn or perhaps an Instagram, or your you could go to your YouTube. Okay. Okay, this font, we have at least 3 fonts here. Okay, so we want to be mindful of that. There's actually more, maybe, but be mindful of that. So we don't really need that extra button here and here because we have them here. You would need a reason for this page besides putting a welcome word there, okay? But it is simple, and I do like that. So I don't want to get it busy. That would be going in the wrong direction. Great job, great image. Okay. All right. So you have Explore My Portfolio there, but you call it something else on your other pages. And so you want to be consistent with that. Make sure you name your files so that when they're rolling over them, we don't get a generic name like this. So I would need to have a little information about these. And probably I would just have a photo page. Here is where you would put details, what you shot it with. Probably what the bird is, because then you can have another backlink for a whole nother genre, for bird watchers. And maybe they would come to your site as well if they find your link on a blog specific to that. So, think about that. It's really great design here. I love the focus that you have. Okay, a little bit. Okay, make sure you're using consistent text. Okay, but okay. Okay, so all right. I would take that out, that photo carousel that you have here, because this is you already have that on your photos, and this is going to be for your videos, apparently. Okay, I see what you've done. Okay. You won't need this page. All right. You can have videos and photos. You could have a portfolio that lands on one or the other. It could land here, it could land here, but we don't need this in between. I know it's named correctly, but we really need to just go to your two options, this or this. And so you could, let's see, you could either bring these up and just have a photo and a video page, and that would work. Or you could have videos and then a drop down for photos. Okay, but we have too many extra, we have an extra page, extra button there. Okay. All right. I think I would center this. I know it's aligned with this, but I would consider it. Maybe not, maybe not. It's not essential. I do like the coloring. All right, let's take a look at the mobile. It's looking good. I'm not sure you need that. Be careful with our write-ons and animations. Sometimes they'll slow a site down. So this would go to, right now it's going to your portfolio page. And so I would probably call this, videos. This is your home page, so I would take that off. And it could say portfolio. Now, you could separate it just to have it one page and have your videos at the top and your photos at the bottom if you were able to click on this and it open with information. But you could put both of these on the same page, but I don't think so, not because you have them full screen like this, full width. Yeah, let's not do that. I would just try to remove this interim page. It's not that I don't like it, it's just isn't as functional. little space there, I feel, underneath that list. All right, great job. Terrific. Okay, so that definitely would say videos because it's going to your video page. All right. I was born in Kentucky. All right, great job there, Vegas. Looking forward to seeing all these little details work out. I could tell you have spent some time and thought about how you want to curate this. Well done. Okay, Ben. Logo would need to be a little larger, and I'm not sure, but I think you have text there. Okay. All right. So if it's photography, then that's going to go to your photography. Okay, so we don't need those buttons. I like them. I like this, but they're not working correctly right now, are they? They're not linked to the content. Good job. Yeah. And I would go ahead and make the opacity of your header opaque 100%, so we don't have this bar. And you want equal spacing. Okay. Okay. Nice work. You might want to center this. Gallery. Close that up. Okay. Make sure that this is muted so that your user has the opportunity to select play or not. And you'll need to have a little bit about each. Just something small, doesn't have to be a lot. You'll want probably a heading for this so that we know that we've moved into the photographs. I mean, we know that we have, but we want to make it clear for screen readers and so forth. Let's see. Okay, great. This is a little tight and it looks like a third text. So I would probably use something like this in that color. Accessibility in week 4, that might be flagged when you go through that, we'll see. But I would give a little space here and make sure you choose something that doesn't have that narrow stroke. But otherwise, really great. Great photo. It's about folio. Contact, good. Okay. So what you're trying to do is probably add an anchor here so that you can link to that, all right? So that when you select that, you probably meant for it to come here. Okay, I'll probably post a video on linking and adding anchors. If you need that, let me know and I will send that over to you. All right. Okay, let's take a look at the mobile. Okay, looking good. This font's always difficult. This is better. And I know it came with the template. Yeah, I would make sure your anchor is somewhere here. So that we land right here. And probably close that up just a little, not much. And again, I would use this for all of this as well. It's just easier to read. Okay. All right, you've got a lot of great work and you've put a lot of time into it and it's working really well. Just some details, right? Most of you have really accomplished a lot in just a couple of weeks. Well done. Okay, Patrick, I know you built this from scratch, so kudos to you for doing that. Definitely make this background 100% opacity so that we don't have this happening right here. Okay. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Not a big fan of this kind of background. It looks like it is a video background. It's moving. It's just the fact that it's sort of a radial gradient is a little dated, and so a solid might work better. If you have no border here on your image, I would have no border here. The border isn't really necessary. It's great that it's easier to read. I understand that you made that choice. I'm not sure you need a border though. The black may be sufficient, or the dark gray. Okay. Make sure that's a Google Voice or you want to remove it. Okay. You're using the same font. That's great. This is super clear. You may want to move this to the right or left and bring this up next to it. You may want to consider using this font, which is, let's see, that's Helvetica. Okay, you might consider using that here. Okay, so it has a nice consistency. Or this. So we've got we've got 3 or 4 fonts going on, maybe as many as 5. So we want to narrow that down a little bit, and then I think it's going to really come together for you. Interesting. Okay. I think if you're going to do this, it would be better if it was over to the side and this was moved over a little bit. This is just commanding a lot of attention, this box, and we want the attention to be on your work. This is just support. Okay, so we want to bring that down a notch. And again, I would use this font, the Helvetica, or this one. And just be really careful about things that are moving, because the attention needs to be on your work, right? And my eye is kind of going to the background. But I do love that you explored that, because I know you built it from scratch and you kind of put these things together. And all in all, they're working really well. Some of the color combinations are working. But the main thing is we see your work, so keep that in mind. And I'm going to check and see. Yeah. So we just want to be careful about how many fonts we're using, all right? Okay, let's look at the mobile on this one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the main thing is we just we've got a lot of attention here and we want it here. So, you want to break that up a little bit. Not quite so much. It doesn't mean that all of this isn't important. You could just say project description here, or project without brief or description. You want to be super succinct, and you want to, I think, use a Helvetica and a little bit smaller font. Be mindful of that, because that's hard to read, but it's taking so much attention away from your work. So that's the main thing to think about. Yeah. And probably reduce this just a little. And borders can do this sometimes, so that's another reason you may want to avoid that. But this is looking super, really clear. All right. Okay, so we want to technically limit our fonts to two, one for heading and one for body copy. And if you can limit your color palette, that's always a smart idea too. All right, one more, maybe two. Love this. Great job. Not a fan of that background, but it's working better here than in most cases where I've seen it used, where students use it. But a little tough to read, not horrible. Make sure that's your Google Voice. Good job, good job. Super clear. Easy to read. Different font here. Okay. Make sure that they're all set to mute, so the user can decide to play them. Okay. This is a little hard to scan. I usually use these a lot myself, but I feel like with this particular font, it feels a lot like a letter. So I would be careful with this. You may not need it. Okay. So what we do need is to have contact in your navigation. Okay. So that is something you definitely want to put down here so that it links to this. All right. So you can add an anchor there if you need it. Check and see if there's one there, which would just be a line at the top of your section. All right. Okay. All linked up. Let's take a look at the mobile. Okay. Good. All right. Not a huge fan of this background for your navigation panel. You may want that to land closer to here. All right. Doesn't seem to be line breaks. The color here is what I'm really engaged with here, this color palette. It has a little bit of a vintage look, but it's sharp. And I would rather see something in the background like that. You know, one of these colors. And carrying that over a little bit. Perhaps even your button. This, I know black and yellow are the strongest color combinations for attention, but I also think it'd be great to pick that up. Okay. All right. Okay, great job. Very little to do there, right? All right, let's look at another one and then we'll call it a night. Okay, Austin. Good. Let's check this. Make sure you wanted to spell that like that. Okay. That's the only one that troubled me. I mean, yes, you can't read that here, but it doesn't bother me too much given the content. But when we have the block coming up here, that flash could be a problem for some people. But this bothers me. It's overlapping text. So that's the only thing I think. You probably are aware of that and need to do something with it. Let's make sure that we make your background 100% opaque. Yeah. And that this is definitely locked in with your header. But it's looking good. It's engaging. Okay. Nice. Okay. Okay, this might have to have higher contrast. That icon, looking good. Okay, let's check the mobile. I liked this on the desktop. I'm not sure I like it as much here because of the stacking that occurs, this line. I do like the sentiment though, and the wording. You want to increase your contrast here for the selected page in your navigation. Okay. Yeah, this works okay. A little better on your mobile, but you have to be careful of cropping those words. Okay. And let's see. Okay. This would be stronger probably if it were in a font that is that easy to read. It doesn't have to be a bright, bright color, but just a little easier and consistent with your style. All right. Everybody's doing such a fabulous job. I really am loving what you're doing. Make sure that that is set to beautiful sound, but make sure that it is set for the user to play it, right? So it's muted. All right. Excellent work. I can't wait to see where you are next week. You're just growing so fast. And just reach out if you have any questions whatsoever. Anything that you need, is just a click away. But I'm happy to help where I can. All right? All right, everybody. Have a great evening and reach out if you need anything.